All right. Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? Thank you all for coming. I think it's kind of like spring break, so if any of you in the back want to move down, feel free to do so. Just kidding. So welcome to my Mondays in March presentation, The Road Ahead for the Academic Enterprise. As I was thinking about this, it was just so much to do. It was quite a challenge to put everything together, but there we go. So this is Dr. Calendar's slide, and I thought we would start there. He calls it the right mission, vision, and values. And you know these mission and vision and value statements by now, I presume, but let's just go over them. Our mission is to improve health for the people of Texas and around the world. Our vision is we work together to work wonders as we define the future of healthcare and strive to be the best in all of our endeavors. And the values there are also very powerful. Our values are compassion, integrity, respect, diversity, and lifelong learning. Again, as I was saying, I was thinking about the presentation. I thought I would go back a bit. About 2.5 years ago, you may have heard me and may have seen me present this slide. So let's go right through it here. The idea is orienteering or setting vision is an orienteering process. This is a working philosophy that I think is very powerful. You see an axis there to describe success in arbitrary terms here. You see a time axis here. I place this right about here on this graph. Remember, the process is you have to define reality rigorously, and by doing that, and only by doing that, can you set direction, which is what we think about traditionally in terms of goals and vision. Along the way, the dotted line is meant to represent the complex learning problems that come along, those kind of things that the people have to solve together. You build alignment and commitment that accelerates this process. You tackle those complex learning problems. And if we get that all right, some point in the near future in our lifetimes, we will say that, yes, we have been successful. Well, one way to think about success is here. We fulfill our values. We are compassionate. We have integrity. We have respect for each other. We are a diverse organization. And we pursue lifelong learning. Again, I showed this slide about 2.5 years ago, and this was built in no small part based on feedback I received from you. We agreed together that we would set higher expectations for excellence in performance. We would create a clearer shared vision for the future that emphasizes alignment with our health system colleagues, our colleagues in shared services, and we would emphasize the importance of dense communication. We would do everything possible to make sure we communicated more effectively. Along the way, we think about our structure and function to make sure we have the right things there to support our group practices, not just faculty group practice. I'm talking about those things we do as a collective. And we would think as a system. We would pursue systems thinking. And this would facilitate any necessary structural or procedural reforms. And then lastly, to get all that right, we had to have the support from decision support services as well as our business development services if we were to be successful. All right, so here's a video from 90 days ago, so let's watch that. And I put it up to talk about the importance here to me that we must think strategically. We must focus sharply and act quickly. And if we get that right, that's not enough because we have to move beyond that to deliver. So those are my comments. I thank you all for coming, and I think there's a little snapshot. Here's another picture. I put that up because, as you may notice, I'm about 40 pounds lighter than I was. Clean living, clean living. No sickness. All right, so here's Ben Franklin on the nature of action. He says, well done is better than well said. I put that up because there's no way I can do justice to all the great things that you all have done, all the great things that we have done. The important thing is we have done it. And so I'm going to try to give justice to some of the many accomplishments, the great work that you all have done, but words just really can't do justice. So well done. This is the year in review we published last fall. I call it a way to tell the good stories. You see the link there at the bottom. If you have time and are so inclined, you might look at that because in that document we really try to list again many, if not all, the very important accomplishments as of that moment in time. All right, so here's our first pillar, right? Invest in the success of our workforce. I translate that to great people coming to join the great people that are already here. But in my mind, it's also about getting the right people in the right places, doing the right things for the right reason at the right time. And again, I think that embodies the action, the energy that I have witnessed here with you at UTMB. This is just a list of some of the new appointments. Now, you're not supposed to read this. But some of the folks that are sitting in the back right helped me put this together. And you can see that we've been very, very busy. It's not just folks that are appointed in leadership positions, ranging from Dr. Baral there all the way down to Scott Weaver, but it's also about folks that are coming to support all the things we do, frontline personnel, folks in the hospital side, folks in the shared services side. We just couldn't have done it without you. We do have some important searches that are ongoing. The chair search for neurosciences and cell biology has finished the first round, and the second round candidates are coming now to visit us on campus. These are extraordinarily talented people that see that we have great opportunities here at UTMB. It's very gratifying to me to see that they want to come and join us. It should be gratifying to you. I call UTMB an institution that has great bones, and our brightest people can see that when they come to interview, when they're attracted to our positions. Dr. Niesel has 10 jobs, or had 10 jobs, but he's our new chief research officer, and he said to me, well, you know, I'm going to have to give something up. So we've launched the chair search for microbiology and immunology. Dr. Weaver is stepping in on an interim basis. We'll be in fine shape. We're right in the midst of our chair for psychiatry. Dr. Hirschfeld is stepping down after 25 years of dedicated service. And so we're, again, enthusiastic about finding the next great leader, and we believe we'll proceed expeditiously to finish that search. Most recently, with tears in my eyes, I hesitate to even mention his name, but our chair of ophthalmology stepped down to pursue other interests. It was really, really sad for me, but again, we'll be going forward, and I think we'll be in good shape. All right, so here's a slide on training future clinicians and scientists, and working with my colleagues, my fellow deans, again, we wanted to talk about our tremendous efforts to train future clinicians and scientists. You'll see some statistics there comparing 2006 to 2014, along with a percent increase. You see about a 20% increase in the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, a whopping 85% in the School of Health Professions, 8% in the School of Medicine, although we are legislatively mandated to a certain class size, and again, a whopping increase in the School of Nursing. Overall, the total number of students has increased by more than 42%. That's extraordinary. We lead in diversity, among other things. This is just a slide to highlight some of the things that we're doing as regards the diversity of our workforce. This is specifically for the School of Medicine, but again, talking with Dr. Watson and Dr. Protis in preparation for this talk, I think you'll find that this general issue of leadership and diversity extends across all our schools. But as regards the School of Medicine, we rank first from the period 2000 to 2014 as regards the graduation of Hispanic medical students, second nationally overall in the percentage of underrepresented minority graduates, excluding historically black universities or medical schools in Puerto Rico. We also rank fourth nationally in the graduation of African American students. That is extraordinary. Another round of applause, please. Thank you all for what you do. Put this in as one of many examples. This is our new Student Health and Counseling Center. Dedicated that on September 25th, expanded the footage so we could serve our trainees more effectively as regards their healthcare and counseling needs. I see Dr. Lamar somewhere, raise your hand. Dr. Lamar joined us as Medical Director for Student Health and Counseling Services. She's doing a wonderful job. Among many things, besides the footprint and the people serving our trainees, I think we're on track for introduction of electronic medical record, which will be important for the care of our students and trainees going forward. Dr. Bardwaj is here, and so he and I guess, probably a year and a half ago, started talking about what we could do to better support faculty across all the mission areas. We already had the very strong and robust Academy of Master Teachers. We also had the very strong and robust Academy of Research Mentors. I saw Dr. Rose earlier. But we said there's a leg of the stool that's missing. There's another important duty, and that is recognizing those people who are master clinicians, who embody the excellence that we need in terms of delivery of patient care. So we've launched that. You may have seen an announcement. Dr. Phillips has stepped in to lead the committee. Membership here will be honorific. It'll be something that we hope our very best clinicians will aspire to join. Supporting our people. Looking again at how we are organized, our infrastructure, it seemed to me that we needed to bring back these two very important positions for UTMB. So we were successful in recruiting Dr. James Blankenship as our new student ombudsperson, and most recently Dr. Carrie Cooper to be our new faculty ombudsperson. You may be familiar with the ombudsperson concept, but I've highlighted the points there. They don't report to me, they report to the president. They're meant to act as independent agents. They help us resolve conflict. They're supposed to consider all sides of the issue in an impartial manner, and then an objective manner, and then help us work together towards resolution of the issue. And so this is an effort to positively promote problem solving across the whole academic enterprise. And again, you see that fourth bullet point there. I referenced it earlier, dense communication. This is another method for us to communicate more effectively with our members. On that line of improving communication, there are a couple of things I wanted to highlight. We introduced just recently the TYTK, Thought You Should Know piece. This is meant to be something where we work very hard to get the wording just right, to make it parsimonious. Try not to waste your time, but want to focus you on things we think are important. These are issues that are important, we think, globally to our community members, and it's an effort to help you stay more informed. Now that mirrors very nicely with the new weekly relay concept that the president has introduced. The weekly relay is again a method for improving two-way communications. It's using weekly brief information sharing sessions. The effort again is to connect us broadly from those who are managers, directors, or chairs, or others in leadership positions to the people that are actually doing the work. The initial response has been very, very good. In some cases, people like Tony D'Agostino had been doing it for years with her people, and so we modeled that on the academic enterprise. Here's another thing I want to announce, and so another effort, if you will, to improve communication, not just internal communication, but external communication. So we're going to publish the Academic Enterprise magazine. We expect the first issue to be available in the spring of 2015. Again, the goal here is to reach out to those people, graduates, politicians, other friends and fans of UTMB, but also to colleagues around the country so we can talk and tell them about the great things that are happening here. More on this issue of telling the good stories that happen every day at UTMB. Second pillar, resources. Secure the necessary resources to support our work. Well, here are a few slides here. This is a slide, the capital campaign progress by priority. I think I saw Ms. Clarity. Asked her to help me with this, and so here's the slide she gave me. I won't go through all the numbers there, but I want to highlight a few things. First, she tells me that she is satisfied with the progress that we're making, about 87% in phase 2. But there are a couple of things I want to highlight. If you look at my punchline is, we're either on target or exceeding targets for many things that are critically important to the success of the academic enterprise. Faculty endowments raised over that goal of $20 million. Scholarship endowments almost there. a good start in our special research and clinical care programs. And then you see also in this other areas, these are other gifts that can be used to make sure we have optimal support for our various missions. Here's a slide that just summarizes some of the things we're doing in financial aid. I'm going to read this with you. If you look at student financial services, great work there with Scott Bowie and Dr. Mahan. We distributed aid to approximately 2,000 students for about $40 million for the 2014-15 aid year. If you look a little deeper and compare us to 2013, you'll see that in that year, about 53% of our students took out loans, but that decreased by 3% for the 2013-2014 year. If you look again comparing with the 2012-2013 year, about 33% of our students received scholarships and grants, but that increased by 4% for 2013-2014. So if you look at these current data, and thanks very much to everyone involved, including people like Dean Watson and Dr. McKee, we're on track to continue this trend of fewer students taking loans and more receiving scholarships. If you think about our duty to train the workforce of the future here in the state and around the nation, this is an important tool. This is an important attribute of our institution. There have been some questions about research. So I put this slide in so I can give you a high-level summary. Mr. States, who I also saw, helped me put these data together. The point of this slide is that many have said that the institution is too focused on the clinical margin, on the clinical engine. I want to try to convince you that's not the case. We focus on that because that's a way of generating margin. We focus on that because it's a duty, if you will, to provide the very best care we can to our patients. But I don't want anyone to think that we're not equally committed to supporting our research infrastructure. So one metric, not the only metric of that, is what we're spending as regards to research dollars. Here you see a total of about $24 million, and you see a pie chart that represents the various sources of these funds. Now, remember, this is in addition to any indirect or direct cost formulas. So this is what we're spending. The orange, about $4 million for subsidization of the research cores. If you look at cost sharing to federally funded research projects, about $7 million. If you look at faculty commitments, that's about $3 million. And if you look at the use of one of our major endowments, the John Seeley Memorial Endowment Fund, that's about $11 million. Thinking of it in another way, if you look at what the MSRDP spends off, our faculty group practice, we take about 22% of this total from that fund. We have much work to do if we're going to continue to be successful, but I want you to take that message home that research is critically important for us. I consider it part of academic duty, and under that rubric of innovation, we include research. If we're not being innovative, then we're not doing what I consider to be academic duty. A little bit on power and my power. Mr. Patriarca here? Mr. Clark, no, there you go. All right, so let's give a round of applause for Mike and others in the team because pretty proud of this, it's going to be the kind of thing that we have to continue to modify to make it continue to be best in class. But I'll give you a little story that many around the state and around the nation are interested in adapting this tool that we developed internally for their faculty members. So for those of you who don't know, MyPower is a web-based portal that has many capabilities, but importantly, it allows faculty members to view their productivity, measure their performance, and then forecast any performance-based incentives they might be eligible for. Along that line of the critical importance of dense communication, we believe that this tool, besides doing those things, improves transparency. So far, at least half of our faculty members across all 4 schools have accessed it and used the tool and device. All right, so here's a little bit on the Faculty Compensation and Incentive Plan, so-called FCIP, in progress to date. As you'll recall, we launched this in March of 2014. Since the inception of the Faculty Compensation and Incentive Plan, we've distributed about $6 million in individual incentives to eligible faculty members, and these are folks who exceeded their work review expectations. On top of that, in addition to the individual incentive piece, there are other pieces of the compensation plan that deserve emphasis. One is there are allocated dollars for group incentives, those things that the chair identifies as targets for their members. There's also the margin sharing agreement that we were able to sign with the health system. So if you look at just those two elements in addition, there were another $2.5 million distributed to the departments, either via the allocated group dollar program, also through, or in addition to the margin sharing agreement. So significant progress to date. It's not just about the money. It's a total value proposition, what it means to be a member at UTMB. But we had to get this part right. It's a building block, and I think there's great progress to date. It is meant to be, as Dr. Richardson has heard me say, an iterative plan. We have many things that we can do to improve it, but I think the early feedback and response has been good. There are some other important aspects of the faculty compensation and incentive plan that I wanted to highlight here. Again, working with my fellow deans, I said, well, you know, if we're going to put it together kind of a slide that overviews the educational component, what would we put on it? And this is what we came up with. The education component is meant to acknowledge the major importance of the education mission here. We felt a need to create greater uniformity as regards quantifying and measuring teaching efforts using more precise teaching metrics that would be applicable across all schools. We wanted to establish the financial recognition system for those who exceeded baseline teaching expectations. And importantly, we wanted to make sure that this faculty compensation and incentive plan education component mapped up with what we heard from you regarding our objectives for the academic enterprise in 2020. And these particular objectives are aimed at constructing more robust measures, means to measure teaching excellence. All right, so again, Dr. Lieberman helped out here along with others, and this is again a summary trying to talk about the process we followed to date as regards teaching allocations. Remember, the objective is to recognize and compensate faculty members for their efforts as regards educating our students. The process is outlined in those subsequent bullet points. Each program tracks and reports teaching of its faculty members. We use the common metrics that I outlined to you earlier. We make projections for each faculty member at the beginning of the year, and then we do a true-up where we actually look at actual teaching efforts for each half year. Faculty are expected to review their data and help us correct errors as part of the MyPower platform. And then if you look at how we've done in the School of Medicine, for example, projected efforts were within 5% of actual for over 90% of the School of Medicine faculty members. Again, good progress. There's room for improvement. We'll get better. But I think it is a very successful plan. I think I can say that, you know, as you know, in the School of Medicine, we recently had the LCME come through. And we haven't heard the final report, but we've gotten their preliminary findings. And, you know, they comment on strengths as well as opportunities for improvement. They thought that our efforts around the educational component of the FCIP was very strong, and it was acknowledged as a strength. So thank you all for helping us move that along. Here's a little bit more about progress as regards the education component. Again, as I said earlier, schools transition to an activity metric-driven teaching FTE model. You can look at all of these data within Power. You can see here's a teaching tab that you can look at. I mentioned the semi-annual true-up that comparing actual to projected efforts. And then for those folks that need a true-up, you can expect that the additional incentive payments will be made on May 1st. Again, you can look here in the teaching detail and look at actual versus projected activity. If you're an individual faculty member, we ask you and encourage you to do that to make sure that we continue to refine the system. Research. This is the component of the faculty compensation and incentive plan that is focused on the research activities, if you will. Now, we started off, and we expect faculty members to cover 50% of their research effort with extramural peer-reviewed funding, and this is up to or based on the NIH salary cap. The first individual incentives in the calculations there, 12-month average, March 1st through February 28th. Of course, faculty members in the ramp-up period were exempted. Another important caveat of this plan was that faculty who submitted grants that were scored but not funded had their rolling average, or can have their rolling average extended by 6 months. The first round of incentive payments is expected May 1st. There is a risk of reductions, and We will look at those towards the end of this year in preparation for issuing new MOAs in 9/1/15. Once again, you can look at these data. I encourage you to do so under the Research Detail tab in MyPower. Third leg, strategic management, growth. Here, pursuing the greatest opportunities to help define the future of healthcare. The next several slides are meant to just summarize the progress to date on the so-called AE 2020 top objectives. They're listed here in blue, the major objectives. There are 2 slides. We, working together, said that we needed to have a tactical planning, tracking, and performance reporting platform. With Mr. Clark's help and others, we've implemented the platform and used it for 5 months. We thought we should develop succession plans for key leaders. We have, and the teams have identified the key leadership positions, and they're creating a very active list of development programs. This extends to mentoring, right? If we're going to be preparing the next generation of leaders, we have to have the very, very best mentoring programs. Dr. King, Dr. Bardwaj, and others are tying our succession planning into the development activities that we need for our faculty members. We said that we wanted to begin the process, at least, of reviewing and revising all of our program curricula to be competency-based. The Strategic Management Task Force here has compiled a detailed listing of the status of competency-based education in our existing programs, and we're beginning the planning and processing now as regards implementation of specific faculty development activities that will allow us to pursue that goal of having a curricula that are more competency-based. A fourth major objective was to evaluate, optimize, or potentially consolidate centers and institutes. This is a thorny issue. It's not the first time in UTMB's history we've asked ourselves this question, but I believe at this moment in time, we are as well prepared as ever to actually make progress. And that means I think there has been significant progress to date. There have been some challenges as regards data collection, but I think we are now positioned to identify and agree on the framework that we'll use to evaluate our centers. No one should see this as a threat. I think there are ample opportunities to make sure that some individual program that a faculty member or someone else started doesn't get diminished in the process of asking this question. The way it's been described to me is that in order for UTMB's light to shine, we don't have to dim a light on anything. People have given their lifeblood for some of these programs. We just have to talk about that coordination efficiency piece. This slide shows the other 3 major objectives. We wanted to increase our rolling 3-year extramural research funding levels. We have some component parts, infrastructure again, that have been sorted out. We've identified and have approval for a location to house Grant Central. We've opened a new position for Associate Director for Grants and Contracts Development, a concierge service, if you will, to try to make sure faculty members know of all the opportunities that are out there, and then we provide the appropriate support for them in the process of developing their grants. There have been some other important subcommittees that have been established, and they're beginning to move forward with the tactics we need to make sure we achieve this objective. The 6th objective there was to define methodology for selecting future clinical program priorities. Again, working with the hospital colleagues, I think this has bound us in a way that is optimal, and I think very, very promising as regards how we go forward. So we have a pathway now for evaluating proposed clinical programs. We have a standard set of criteria to use, and we have an idea of the measurements that we will need to use and complement to make sure that we identify the very best programs in terms of those that will be invested, that we'll invest in over the short term. The process includes having clinical program proposals, if you will, present to a multidisciplinary team, again, encompassing the academic enterprise and health system as well as shared services. I referenced earlier the philanthropic target here by 10%. Ms. Clarity, I think, is happy. I'm certainly happy. I think we're on target there. Punchline is the capital campaign is on or exceeding targets. That's really important for our future success. Probably can't read this, but this is just a snapshot from the OnFocus platform that we're using to help monitor how well we're doing. Again, we can give you demos. The chairs and co-chairs of the Strategic Management Task Forces are using this tool. I'll just draw your attention here to the goal summary. Here you'll see those pillars that I've been reviewing: people, value, strategic management, and growth, as well as resources. And there are any number of devices that can help us keep track of how well we're doing. Not everything can be measured quantitatively. If you add qualitative assessment, you get a pretty robust set of metrics. But if we're not asking ourselves every day how well we're doing, we won't be as efficient, we won't be as effective as we could be. And this is the reason for this tool. Fourth pillar, value, delivering high quality outcomes that improve education, research, and healthcare delivery. All right, the next slides, again, I was referencing this earlier. I can't possibly do justice to all the great things that everyone has done, the things that we've done working together. So these slides, I would encourage you to go to the year in review to look at any of the other documents we prepared. But without a doubt, there has been great news in the research mission over the past year, ranging from the Seeley Center for Vaccine Development being named the World Health Organization Collaborating Center, one of only 2 in the Western Hemisphere and one of 7 in the world. The Seeley Center on Aging being redesignated, UT System awarding UTMB a $6 million grant to establish a UT System Proteomics Core Facility. Dr. LeDuc and Dr. Kizak named to the Texas Task Force on Infectious Diseases Preparedness and Response. Dr. Geisberg being recognized in Time magazine as the Ebola fighters were recognized as the 2014 Person of the Year. School of Health Professions ranked 9th out of 59 for its NIH productivity. But if you look broadly across the graduate schools, School of Medicine, in terms of telling the good stories, we do very, very well. Microbiology and immunology, top 3, pathology, pharmacology, OBGYN programs ranked very highly. Surgery, also a very strong program. I think Dr. Tyler told me number 2 in Texas. Number 1 in Texas, excuse me. Oh, wait, there's Barb. There you go. Should have asked you, Barb. Thank you very much. So, and how many people actually knew that? You know, that's my point. Okay. If you look at U.S. News and World Reports, it's not a perfect measure of reputation or productivity, but people look at it. We look at it. Ophthalmology and otorhinolaryngology are on the rise now. In the past, not being mentioned, but now being mentioned in U.S. News and World Reports. So we are moving. Teaching and faculty support. So School of Nursing, again, my good friend Dr. Watson there, hopefully I can say good friend. Colleague, certainly. Great program. How many folks know that, I knew that it was ranked first out of 25 in the fall of 2014 online nurse grad ranking, just reported on graduate programs. Outstanding. The master's degree program also ranks very well, as you can see. How about Dr. Blackwell? Is Dr. Blackwell here? He couldn't come, he's probably too busy working. So there's the Courage to Lead Award. Dr. Blackwell got 1 of 3 of these awards given by the ACGME, recognizing designated institutional officials that are doing an outstanding job. That is wonderful. Again, it's a great story. We need to get that out. 6 UTMB faculty members received outstanding teaching awards from the UT System Board of Regents. And then in terms of faculty support, we've worked very hard to mobilize our endowments. We've made great progress there. So in this case, when I talk about reducing the endowment fund balance, that means that working together, we've been able to mobilize our funds to support faculty members and their efforts. And if you look at another thing, the system follows excessive balances, a certain metric in terms of once it passes a certain threshold, UT System starts to take notice. We are doing a better job of mobilizing our funds, about $1.7 million reduction as regards the excessive fund balances. Here's another snapshot observation. If you look since October 2013, over 60 faculty members across all schools have been appointed to endowed positions. These are critically important. I argue will become even more important as we move forward. Ms. Sollenberger talked in great detail and spoke in great detail, about many of the great things that have happened over the past year as regards patient care. These are just a few. Our designation here, Level 3 Epilepsy Center by the National Association for Epilepsy Centers, Dr. Bardwage's leadership. I saw Dr. Thompson in the crowd, where you look at this important designation, receiving the highest certification for our department's new model of primary health care delivery. Productivity is significantly improved or increased in the faculty group practice. When I first came here, we were below the median. We set a 62.5% percentile benchmark target based on MGMA academic standards, and we now are at the 68th to 69th percentile. We still have some work to do because it's not just about work RVU productivity. And then I think every day you're reading the paper, some discussions about moving towards a different system to recognize our patient care efforts. I think the structure of our faculty compensation incentive plan is robust, and we can easily adapt to anything that happens externally. But if you look at this productivity measure, again, kudos to the faculty members and other providers for their excellent work. Accreditations aren't easy. Here's AAA LAC, Association for Assessment and Full Accreditation of Laboratory Animal Care. Again, under Tony D'Agostino's leadership and others, we received full accreditation, not an easy task. Under Dr. Watson's and Dr. McKee's careful eye, including submitting a massive document, we were able to be fully accredited by SACS, the Commission on Colleges of the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. It's extraordinary work. It happens behind the scenes, but it's those kind of things we have to get right. Now, this is interesting. I actually received any number of things from the AAMC. This is their missions management tool. And I got a chance to look at it, and I thought there would be some things that I should just show you. Because, again, these are testaments to the extraordinary work happening at UTMB every day. So one of their tables is on preparing a diverse physician workforce. This is a combination of data derived from folks who respond, as well as data submitted by our partner schools in the AAMC. So if you look at this issue of a major mission, if you will, of the medical centers is to prepare a diverse physician workforce. We're ranked in the top 10%. Over 10% of our full-time faculty members are Hispanic or Latino, American Indian or Alaska Native, or African American. And here I would say we're not just resting on that. We have a very important initiative to promote diversity in the whole institution. But this is at least some evidence that we are doing well. We can do better, but we're doing well. If you ask in terms of, if you look at this number of what percentage of our faculty members are women, we're ranked in the top 15%. About 40% of our faculty members are women. Again, we can't rest there. It's one of those things you have to keep working towards, but again, we are leading the way as regards our peer institutions. The second table there that I had a chance to review was the one entitled Fostering the Advancement of Medical Discovery. And so here, we're ranked in the top 15%. We had about 2,000 graduates from 2000 to 2009, as you can see here, who became faculty members at least at some point through December 2013, training the future generation of leaders. We're ranked in the top 35%, something like that, as regards NIH awards. Again, I think we can do better. I think we will do better. But in context, we should applaud ourselves for our efforts to date. Third table talked about providing high-quality medical education as judged by your recent graduates. Our folks, the folks who graduate, the data they submitted have us ranked in the top 10%. About 90% of our graduates from 2012 to 2014 said that our basic science content had sufficient and ample illustrations of clinical relevance. What about some other goals, objectives, if you will, of academic medical centers? Preparing physicians. This is a unilateral, unidimensional view. It's not just physicians, of course. But if you look at this survey, we're ranked in the top 5%. About 97% of the respondents said that they participated in curricular activities with students from different health professions. Ranked in the top 25%, about 86% responded that we spend the right amount of time devoted to instruction and culturally appropriate care of diverse populations. Ranked in the top 30% as regards this measure, 92% approximately said that we spend the right amount of time devoted to instruction in women's health. Again, I want to emphasize we can't rest on those things. I'm trying to give you a snapshot of all the great things that are happening at UTMB, and once again, highlighting some of the great stories. The final table that I reviewed talked about our ability to graduate a medical school class with manageable debt. We're ranked in the lowest 5% nationally for the cost of attendance for 2014. And as I referenced in the earlier slide, if you look at our student debt, our average student debt has actually decreased by about 5%. There have been some concerns about administrative job growth and what's happening in the academic enterprise, so I felt obliged to put this one in. As you can see there, academic enterprise on the top, you see the column headings, total administrative headcount, total benefits eligible employee count as the denominator, and you see our overall percentage is about 1.7%. This is the slide that I think Dr. Callender has shown, as well as Dr. McKinley. It looks at the ratio of faculty to management. And it again shows that we are positioned very well in not having what some might perceive as a very heavy administrative overlay. But as I was thinking about this slide and that particular element, I wanted to put this up because I want to emphasize a couple things. It's not just about ratios, to say the obvious, right? We have to make sure we're asking ourselves, what are the people doing? Are we holding our administrators accountable, including yours truly? And what are the functions that you all have identified where we need additional administrative support? This is just one snapshot of what the Provost's office looks like. And I've tried to organize it by functions. Again, as part of that listening tour, I hate to use that listening tour for the first 6 months to a year of my time here, this is what I heard from you. This is what I'm referencing in that slide when I talk about those things we wanted to do as we prepare ourselves for 2020. We have the Chief Administrative Officer position responsible for coordination and oversight of administrative operations that support research, education, and patient care. That's in partnership with me. Dr. McCallum leads our faculty group practice. We thought we needed to have this function represented, communications and academic resources, where we look at communications and publications, dense communication, where we look at also things like executive and faculty recruiting, and importantly, onboarding, to make sure that we are doing everything possible to make a person's transition to UTMB as smooth as possible. From taking care of all of their needs and trying to coordinate that as a central function within the Provost's office. And then I've also referenced the great work that's being done in student services, and again, that's an important function for us. We have facilities and special projects, working again with our colleagues in shared services. Here we're looking internally at space planning and inventory management. We're making sure that we manage our endowment portfolios very aggressively, referencing those data I showed you earlier. Surveys are important. We want to periodically reach out to the members and ask how we're doing. If you look at the AE 2020 process, this function deals with objective design, measurement, and tracking. Finance, again, we have to do a better job of making sure we're coordinated and aligned with our colleagues in shared services. Mr. Shear has joined us as Chief Financial Officer for the academic enterprise, and I think, in my opinion, the budget process this year was the best I've seen since I've been here. And so kudos to him, and I think I saw Ms. Shadro and others. Thank you for your efforts. Performance services, all right, you have to measure it. So this is things like power, productivity, benchmarking, elements of the faculty compensation incentive plan, but other things that we use, other metrics that we use to decide how well we're doing. And if we're not planning, then we're not doing everything we need to do in terms of preparing for the future. Mr. Clark deals with IT systems, again, in partnership with our colleagues across the institution. I've referenced the Unfocused platform, and the rollout there has been very successful, but it also deals with the development of technologies, implementation of technologies that are used to support our educational programs. All right, so the last part here, towards UTMB, the Academic Enterprise 2016 and 2017, what are we going to be doing? So remember, we think short-term, near-term, long-term, but I wanted to just spend the last 3 or 4 slides talking about what I think we're going to be doing for the next couple of years. Here's Aristotle on consistency. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. I think our efforts embody this. What we've done over the past 2.5 years since I've been here clearly says this is part of our DNA. These are the strategic objectives voted by you all in terms of the things that we want to focus on in the short term as we move towards the AE 2020 horizon. At the end of the day, UTMB will be a best place, if not the best place to work. But I've emphasized these other elements: financial strength, preparing our graduates, pursuing discovery and innovation, and ultimately enhancing the health of the people of Texas and around the nation, if not around the world. All right, so some of you may have said, what does a typical workday at UTMB look like? All right, here we go. All right, a little humor there, but I feel like that sometimes. Maybe you do, running in every day, spinning the place. But we've done it. All right. So now, moving into FY15, you heard some of this from Donna. On the left side, you'll see some of the things we did last year. We had 35 strategic management task force members. We had these tactical planning teams. We solicited opinions from you, got about 5,000 votes, collapsed those into 18 objectives, and then we moved towards adopting the objectives for FY15. This is our effort to make the universe of objectives smaller, and I think we've done that for FY15. We had 7 that I've referenced, 59 tactics to support those objectives. And again, I want to acknowledge the very, very excellent work of the 14 co-leaders. As we move into FY16, I think we're going to find that we're going to compress those even further. Doesn't mean that we won't be spinning the plates. There'll still be very, very important committee work that has to be done. We're going to try to focus on those things that are absolutely critical for our success. And so I need your help to do it. How many folks know Malcolm Gladwell's book, Tipping Points? Few hands. Well, a lot of folks do. I like this one. Gladwell talked about tipping points when he described the process by which some concepts or ideas gain momentum and results while others sputter and fade. What were the factors that he identified as those that determined success? He had 3 laws. The first was the law of the few. These are the folks, the connectors, the mavens, and what he calls salespeople, the ones that actually get the work done. The number might be big. At UTMB, it could be very, very big. But unless you have those boundary spanners that are looking to connect what we do across the enterprise, the odds of us successfully reaching that tipping point are small. The third law, or the second observation, was the stickiness factor. And these are the circumstances or the qualities that compel people to pay close attention, as you all have been doing. And then the third factor was the power of context. And this is where even minute local factorial changes influence whether an idea reaches the tipping point. I'm going to argue that we are at that tipping point right now. On the left-hand side of the slide, I'm trying to show that we have put in a tremendous amount of effort. We've worked very, very hard. Momentum has been slow, but I would argue here, right now, we're at our tipping point. And if we continue the good work that we're doing, the great work that we've been doing, it gets easier. It gets easier from here. The ball rolls down the hill. There is momentum. There will be other hills that come along, but with that speed, I think we'll be even better prepared to deal with those challenges. All right, the Margin Improvement Project. And so those of you who've seen my presentations know that I've referenced this concern, this challenge we have as regards our budget deficit in the academic enterprise, which has been increasing by about $15 million a year, give or take a few $1,000,000 over the past 4 years. This must be considered in the context of our health systems, our academic medical centers' overall positive bottom line. If you look at the contribution margin from the academic enterprise, it's been stable over the last several years. But for us to continue to invest in those mission areas that are critically important for us, the reasons why we're here, the margin improvement is something we must tackle. And we're going to need some margin improvement if we're going to continue to be successful. Where's Ms. Cedro? Did I see her come in? Oh, she at the left? Okay, let me see. That's Mr. States. So I want to apologize. Oh, that's Celia as well. So I apologize for this part. This is one of the books they made me read was Financial Accounting for Non-Financial Managers. All right, so here we go. And trust me, I'm almost a financial manager. All right, so here's how I think about it. A couple definitions. Revenue minus variable cost equal contribution margin. Traditionally, this assessment of contribution margin is very important when one considers break-even analyses. My point for us is that we're going to have to focus more on the bottom line, and we're going to have to do that in order to identify the very best opportunities to improve margins. So it's things above the line revenue, but also all of our expenses, and all of our costs, including fixed costs, not just variable costs. All right, so here is what we've been doing, and this is a framework that hopefully will resonate with you. If you think about the things that are happening in the academic enterprise, they parallel the things that are happening in the clinical enterprise, if you will. And so you have in the middle of this table this concept. We have to contend with burgeoning fixed costs. On the hospital side, it's about creating scale, growing volume. It's about modulating capital spending. It's about developing contingency plans. On the academic enterprise, as I showed you earlier, one mechanism, as long as we don't outstrip our faculty's means, is to increase class size. I think we are capped there, or capping very, very quickly. We also have to make very critically important decisions about capital expenditures. And then, as we're doing now, we have this validation step that's important as regards the allocation of overhead and fixed costs. Second imperative, maximizing operating efficiency. On the clinical enterprise side, you see acknowledgement of the importance of redesigning our care processes. We're doing that. You see the importance of reducing or eliminating variation. We're doing that. You also see this issue of coarsening traditional clinical roles. Now, that's not a threat. It's just thinking about teams, thinking about what we do across departments, across units within the academic enterprise in partnership with our colleagues elsewhere. On the academic enterprise side, it's about reorganization. I've given you some evidence of that. We're trying to make sure our structure is appropriately designed so we do the best job we can supporting you. We have to eliminate, wherever possible, redundancies. And again, this issue of silos. Departments are primal. They're foundational in terms of what we do, but we need to continue to think about what we do across departments. There is the goal of rationalizing and prioritizing what we do, intensifying our clinical portfolios on the clinical service side, concentrating on high-value programs while making sure we still do those foundational things. I say that we, as an academic medical center, do everything from primary and secondary care to tertiary and quaternary care. We're obligated to do all of those things well. Academic side, though, we focus on our research portfolios and informed in no small part by the Research Futures Committee that Dr. Pettit and others ran, we focus initially at least on our sustainable clusters, not to the exclusion of other things, but we need to be focused. And then lastly, adapting to the new economic realities. We see evidence every day that the shift is happening. The speed, the pace changes, but we're shifting from producing treatment units to providing efficient and effective episodes of care. For us in the academic enterprise, given that this is going to happen, we have to reduce our dependence on clinical emphasis as much as possible while making sure that we acknowledge and thank you all for your efforts to support academia, but also for your efforts to support our patients. We're not alone. I read this as you probably do. Other academic centers are facing tremendous financial challenges. Vanderbilt University and a layoff plan. Other academic medical centers, LSU, you read them there, are reducing staffing and facing draconian measures. University of Arizona recently published purchased by Banner Health. Again, this is not meant to scare us. It should not scare you. But it's meant to say to us, we need your help. We're starting this very important process. There are no layoffs that are planned. I don't think we're to the point of having to think about draconian measures, but we need you all to stay engaged as we go forward. So moving towards the end here, hopefully you agree we have much to celebrate, but there is yet much to do, and we have to do that together. And that framework is all about leadership, right? And we're going to rely on all of you to help us. Now, but what about this concept of leadership? First, I want to say chairs are going to lead the way, along with other leaders, but we need our chairs to continue to think a big picture and to continue to think about how we can facilitate collaboration across the whole academic medical center. Kudos to them for now, an extraordinarily talented group, best group I've ever had a chance to work with. They're adaptable, they have strong communication skills, they are truly committed to the institution, they are authentic, and they have great integrity. And there are many, many examples of our chairs working together. Basic science chairs are meeting monthly to help me figure out ways to further research. Departments are collaborating in ways that I've not seen, and I am told that is different from what happened in the past, looking at recruitment, shared resources, and the like. All right, so here's the piece for me. It's the meta construct that you may have read about, meta leadership. It says there's a spectrum of hierarchical vertical connectivity in organizations like ours. Depending on where one is in place and time, you might be the boss, but you might also be a member of the team. This extends to what happens at home. Sometimes at home you might be the boss, sometimes you might be the team member. Our job is to figure out where we are on the spectrum at any moment in time where our goal is to help UTMB achieve at the highest level. So I put that in to say it's not just about meta leaders, it's also about meta followers if we're going to be able to move past our tipping point and achieve everything we want to achieve at UTMB. So I've shown you a lot of data. We spent a few minutes talking about the challenges. I will tell you that I am very confident about our future. Those who know me might describe me as a brutal realist. But why am I confident? Is it that I know something that you don't? Have I read something that you haven't read? Not at all. I think about our history here at UTMB, 122 years of meeting challenges, hurricanes, other sorts of dramatic external and internal changes. And I think about the people, and I have confidence because after 122 years, we're still here. So there's my favorite slide of the bicycle team. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have right now. Thank you very much for your attention. Yes?
Hi, Dr. Jacobs.
Hi, Mary.
This question came in through the EAC blog.
Okay.
What is the university's policy on flex time?
All right, thank you for that question. Difficult one, right? All right, so I had a chance to see it in advance, and I believe the best answer is this. Flex time policies at UTMB are developed at the departmental level and are based on the operations in that particular area, or at least they should be. So before a flex time policy is developed or revised for a particular department, I would urge that department to reach out with their consultant from HR, and you can look on the website and see there are particular HR consultants that are specifically assigned to each department. And they can work together to look at the specifics of the development of the department's plan. And I think that is the best way of getting at it, both in terms of hearing about any potential resolutions or revisions that might need to be made, but also to help resolve any concerns that might occur internally as regards implementation of the flex policy. Any other questions? Comments? Very quiet group. All right, well, thank you all very much. Happy spring break. We'll see you next time.
UTMB Health, working together to work wonders.